Hello everyone, and welcome back to another light novel review. I am the Rat, and this is The Rat's Nest. Today, we have a very special series to me for a couple of reasons. We are reviewing Mushoku Tensei Volume 11. So, real quick, I have been dealing with a lot of allergies recently, so apologies if my voice sounds a little bit different. But yeah, so if I sound a little bit different or a little bit congested, that's what it is. It's been annoying, but we're here. I'm also going to have to clear my throat some. So, Mushoku Tensei. I love this series. I love this series so much. So Mushoku Tensei, we're back with it. I've done it on the channel once before. It was one of the first 5 videos I published was Mushoku Tensei Volume 10. That was this last summer, almost a year ago. So it's been a second. It's been a second since I dived into some jobless reincarnation. And you know what? It was a lot of fun to get back into. I've read a lot since then. Not a ton. You know, everything I've read, I've posted on it. It has. I haven't read as much as I wanted to, but it was very good to get back into the series. And Mushoku Tensei is also, just me personally, my favorite light novel series by far. It is one of my 2 favorite just series of anything. Mushoku Tensei and Steins Gate. They've tried to do completely different things, and oh man, they're phenomenal. They're both phenomenal. I love them for very different reasons. But Mushoku Tensei, I love this series. I love this series so much, and this was a good book. So again, about to get into it. Spoiler warning: I am completely caught up with the web novel. I will be referencing the web novel, actively referencing it. I will reference Old Dragon's Tale. I will probably reference Redundancy. If you haven't read any of that and you care about spoilers, then maybe consider coming back to this video after you have, and like I could try to hold myself back, but I'll probably let something slip. So I'm reading this in the context of I already have read the web novel, and so looking at it like that. So there's your spoiler warning. Now, getting into the actual content of the book. There's 2 halves, really. The first half is dealing with Aisha and Norn, right? I love this entire book, right? First half is dealing with Aisha and Norn, and the second half is Turning Point 3. I will talk on Turning Point 3 later, but here we have beginning of the book. So it's book 11 on the back. It says Little Sisters Make Big Problems. Obviously, the kind of focal point of this book being Rudeus reuniting with his sisters, and kind of the whole journey with Ellen and Elise, and Turning Point 3 kind of being I won't say like a side part of the book. It does make up the majority of the book. Just a little bit, but over half the book is Turning Point 3, and that kind of story. But it's what light novels do, right? So it was good. I enjoyed it. So with the first half, right? Aisha and Norn. This was phenomenal for a lot of reasons. One, I just love it whenever Rudeus interacts with his family, right? Getting to see him interact with his family as opposed to just like his friends or his wife, that kind of stuff. Later on, his children, later his children's his family, right? But it's like there's just something about seeing him act with blood relatives. It's just so, I don't know. I love it, and I love Aisha and Norn and their characters. They're very fun, on his journey back from the Demon Continent. This is the first time we see them. I believe it was last book we got Rougier leaving because he wasn't in this one. And my memories are a little foggy on the specifics of the beginning of this book. I started a little bit ago and then got busy with school. So here we have Aisha and Norn. They've come to live with Rudeus. And Aisha's like really happy about it. Norn is not so happy. She was devastated that Rougier left, especially so soon. And she still doesn't trust Rudeus. So that's kind of whack. That's kind of the setup here. And the basics of it is, and this is also interesting in that it's Rudeus' first time kind of being a parent figure, right? I think that's also another thing that's very interesting. And as we see later with him and his kids, oh my gosh, I love watching Rudeus be a parent. This is kind of that a little bit. He's having to take responsibility. And he's already had responsibility before for himself, that kind of thing. But this is the first, he's like over these 2 girls, right? He is fully responsible for them. So he, wants them to go to school, right? That's where he is. Paul said, get them to school. Aisha doesn't want to. So Aisha basically, she tests out of it. He's like, okay. He's like, you're going to take the interest test. If you score well enough on it, you don't got to take it. She scored flawlessly. She doesn't have to go to school. She didn't want to. She wants to be the maid. Norn, however, does want to go to school. Obviously, she didn't score perfect on the test. But she got in, and she wants to live in the dorms. Rudeus was initially like, well, I think he was like, okay, yeah. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. But he agrees, right? He agrees, and then they're like, was that the best idea? And he was like, well, I just, I thought it was. She doesn't want to live here, right? She needs her own space. And it's like, okay. But then that creates the problem later where you have her becoming a shut-in, kind of. So this first half of the book is just a lot of, okay, getting used to my two sisters are living here now, right? That kind of deal. And then, they're walking around school, they're in school, right? Norn is this, right? Cool. And then Norn becomes a shut-in. And that's not as cool. So this was really the catalyst for this first half of the book, right? Norn becoming a shut-in. Because obviously mirrors Rudeus's past life, where he was a shut-in. Now, he takes this very seriously. Immediately the first day, he's like, oh, this is bad, right? he's not terribly enthused about it, right? He's like, this is terrible. And then he's remembering everything that he went through. And he's like, I have to help her. He's like, I have to help her before this gets bad. He's like, I have to help her somehow. He's like, I don't know why. I like the scene where he's like, someone must be bullying her, so he goes to her class and like barges in with Rinia and Priscilla, and he's like, all right, chuckle schmucks, what's the deal? What's the deal with airline food? That's so true. He does say that, doesn't he? And basically, he's like, I'm not gonna be mad, right? I'm just gonna be disappointed, that kind of thing. And people will start sharing their stories about how they're like, oh, he's trying to be nice to her. And they all lead back to they were comparing her to Rudeus one way or another. And Rudeus, he's a smart guy, right? He's like, oh. He's like, I get it. And he's like, I understand. He said he hated, he knew, right, that she was being compared to him and that she didn't like that. That because he had seen, right, what we see earlier is her and Aisha fighting some more, right? And Aisha is quite mean to her. And of course, as we learn later, Aisha did have to go through a lot in Millis. And I feel like that's a lot more into Aisha's character with her inferiority complex to Norn. And then Norn's also, it's a weird case where they both have inferiority complexes. Well, I guess maybe Aisha has a superiority complex. I don't know. Or she feels like she has to one-up everything Norn does. So I'd say it kind of looks more like an inferiority complex to me, even though she brags about how much better. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist, right? I'm whatever, whoever. I don't know. I'm an accountant. But yeah, so that kind of thing. And so, Rudeus is like, she probably came here looking to escape that. She wanted out of the house, right? She'd been compared to Aisha forever by everyone, right? Compared to Aisha. Expect to be better than Aisha. Aisha always looking down on her, always making fun of her. And then she gets here to her other amazing sibling, and Norn's just normal, right? And Norn's just and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's the comparison there, where it's like, oh, Rudeus is so great, or Aisha is so great, right? Like and the teacher was like, hey, your grades, you should look up to your brother more, right? Or you should try to be more like him, and that kind of thing. And that, combined with having to leave her father and having to leave Ruijerd, right? The journey up here, all of that, finally the hope of, okay, maybe I can escape this, and then just the crushing weight of, I can't. Ouch. I can completely understand why Norn became a shut-in. Like, that's rough, man. The writing is so good, and that just thinking about it, you're like, this chick has it rough. And then to have that real, oh my gosh, I love how with the light novel, whenever it changes perspective, that's how you know stuff's good. That's how you know stuff's good, when the light novel changes perspective. You're like, all right, I'm about to get a good chapter there. Kind of like you have Paul's chapter with Geese, or you have Zenith's chapter in Volume 1 where she talks about how much she loves Rudeus. Oh, that's such a good chapter. It's such a good chapter. You're in for a treat when it changes perspective, right? And what Rudeus does is he sneaks into the girls' dorm, right? Goes into Norm's room and just sits there, right? He doesn't know what to do. And this entire time, he's thinking through what to say. He's trying to, and he's remembering, right? He's remembering what it was like when he himself was shut in. Remembering how miserable it was, right? Remembering how awful it was. Remembering how terrible it was for him. How he pushed away everyone. How he had a brother that came in and tried to cheer him up. And he never responded to him. Right? How he had a friend came and tried to cheer him up. He never responded to him. He's like, I never got myself out of this hole until Roxy came along. So I got this second chance and Roxy came along. He's like, I can't let Norn go through that. You know, because he experienced different from Norn. Right? He became a shut-in for a different reason. He was bullied. Right? And so that's what he immediately assumed happened with Norn. That's why he went to the classroom. But that wasn't the case then. Right? It was the case where she was crushed by expectations. The expectations set by people around her of her family members, right? And so he doesn't know. He's like, how do I talk to her? He's like, you know, his words that he tells her. He's like, I want to help. He said it can't have been easy. He said, I don't know how to help you, right? He has no clue. Because nothing anyone ever did for him worked. He knows what Norn's situation is like. He was there. He was there for years. And he knows how does someone get through to that? Because no one was able to get through to him. Whether through their fault or his fault, no one was able to get through to him. But Norn is different, and this is what I think adds to her character a lot. And adds to the writing. Where you have Rudeus in his original world gave up, right? And Norn kind of did too. They were for different reasons, right? Norn was terrified of Rudeus for multiple reasons. But here she sees him in her room, sitting and being so anxious and scared. He has no idea how to talk to her. He's so nervous, is what she said. And then she realizes, right? She's sitting there looking at him, listening to what he said, right? And she's like, he cares. He's like, he's not like what I thought he was, right? Like he's not perfect, right? But he does care. And that's what she thought this entire time. She's like, he doesn't care. Said, why would anyone care about me, right? He's scary, he's terrifying. He has anger issues, right? That's the big thing, is that he has anger issues. Back in Light Novel 5, their first meeting, right? He beat up Paul. She was never able to forgive him for that. Something deep down, she was never able to forgive him for that. And yet she sees him here at one of his most vulnerable states. His own sister has entered the hell that he endured for years. And he needs to get her out of it. And he has no clue how. And just that desperation, that anxiousness. She sees him, I think, for the first time, not as like a figure, like a tower that's like in the distance looming over her, right? But as her brother. Because here he is trying to help. He has no clue how. He's human, right? He's human. He's like her. You know, they both worry. They both are anxious about things. And that connection is what gets through to her. And I think that was phenomenal writing. This entire section was just so good. The writing of Norn's character was just phenomenal. It's, you know, Rudeus has always had to deal with his past trauma. I feel like this was such a good way to write that into the story again, where he has to deal with someone he cares about becoming a shut-in. Right? You could say like, oh, maybe it should have happened with one of his kids. I think this was a great part to implement it, because you have Light Novel 12, next volume, as the big volume where he has to come to terms with, I think, and wrap up the rest of his trauma from his previous life. Right? With Paul's death. And then finally realizing, oh, I'm dead, my parents are dead. Like that realization from his past life. I feel like this was another good way to help him confront some of that from his past. Confront who he used to be, getting him on the other side of it, helping him to understand, because he understood what it was like to be a shut-in. He never understood what it was like to try to get someone out of that position. Now he understands what his friend was doing, what it was like for them, what it was like for his brother, what it was like for his parents, right? Now he understands that. And I feel like from that point, he can grow. Right, being able to be on the other side of that, I think, was super important for his character, and it was very well done in my opinion. I think it was done very well. What can I say? That's so true. So, second half, turning point 3. Now, of all the turning points, this is actually one that I forgot was a turning point. After I initially read the web novel and I was thinking back through it, I always saw people refer to Turning Point 4. And I was like, Turning Point 4? I thought, you have 1, the Mana Calamity, 2, Rudeus meeting Orsted on the Dragon Path, right? 3, I forgot that this was a turning point. I thought 3 was the journal. I thought 4 was Pax's death, and then 5, obviously, the final battle. And you know what? I'm going to say it. I think that Pax's death is more of a turning point than this. I believe that. I will stand by that. All right? Okay. So, let's look at the merits of this, right? Turning points. The decisive moments in the battle against Hitogami, right? You have 1, obviously, Mana Calamity. He notices Rudeus. 2, Rudeus meets Orsted. Big whatever, right? 3, this is obviously a very important story moment, right? Because Rudeus gets a letter from Geese. He decides to go to Begarit to help rescue Zenith. While he's there, he meets Roxy. They get together. And then at the end of it all, Paul dies, right? And he rescues his mom. I understand that him meeting Roxy led to the events that happened in the journal and Hitogami's victory, right? I understand that. I also understand that Lara is the hero and that she's obviously the daughter of Roxy and Rudeus. I understand that. I get it. I do. However, even if Rudeus and Roxy didn't get together, right? Then there would still be children of Rudeus around to help Orsted. I guess you could say that Rudeus and Orsted never would have been allies if not for Turning Point 4, right? Okay, I get it. Turning Point 3 directly led into Turning Point 4. Okay. But then why not just have that all be part of Turning Point 4? It's just, I'm not saying, 3 can be a turning point, right? I understand why 3 is classified as a turning point. I don't even necessarily disagree with it being a turning point. I think Pax's death is more influential because in every time loop, the build up to Hitogami is Laplace's resurrection. And Orsted can spawn camp him and kill him because he knows where Laplace is going to be. Pax's death changed that. He has no clue where Laplace is going to be. So whenever Laplace revives, it's going to be a battle, right? It's going to be a battle that weakens him. That's important because then Orsted has to use more of his mana. That's less than he has against Hitogami. And sure, I know he has allies. He has allies in every timeline, though. I don't know. I always thought Pax's death, and it was treated as a huge moment because Rudeus, they lose. Rudeus and Orsted lose that. Hitogami wins that. I was like, that's so cool to have a turning point that Hitogami wins, right? I don't know. I think that should be a turning point as well. And I think I forgot that this because I understand why Turning Point 3 is a turning point, but it's also it's just I don't think it's as impactful as Pax's death. I don't think so. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. Maybe people clicked off the video. I get it. I do. I understand. But yeah, so turning point 3, I like it. So turning point 3 is receiving the letter, basically. Receiving the letter and then choosing to go to beggary. This was obviously what you call it? I love this arc. I really do. This is phenomenal. What you call it? So he gets a letter, right? He's like deciding whether or not to go. Sylphie's pregnant. They're gonna have their first kid. Woo! Hey, go Lucy. So that's awesome. I mean, he's gonna be a father. Seeing him react to that was, oh man, it's great. You know. Here you have Sylphie's pregnant, and his dad's in trouble, right? Or supposedly, they don't know. What they do is Rudeus isn't gonna go, and then Norn convinces him to go. Right, because Norn loves her father, right? And obviously, what you call it, she spent the entirety of her beginning of her life with him, right? Just natural. And so, Rudeus sets out, him and Elenilise, and they're going to be gone for 2 years, right? And originally, what they're going to go is just going to be Elenilise, but then he tells Nanahoshi it's going to be 2 years. She's like, "Hold up, I got this for you." Shows him where the teleport circles are that Orsted and her used to get around. Like, oh, well, that's sick. That's awesome, those teleport circles. We use it. It's going to be like a 3-month round trip. He'll make it back before his son is born, right? So him and Elenilise go out, yada yada, traveling, fight some stuff. Cool little desert. Get to the teleportation circle. That's cool. It's like, okay, like we get the little hint that it's like, okay, like one, it takes time. 2, whenever Rudeus sees Elenilise, she like goes into the floor and then comes back up. Right, so it's like, okay, well then that's, you know, the little hint that teleportation is going through the center of the six-faced world. Funny, you know, and that's how Hitogami noticed Rudeus, right? So funny there, right? So it'd be interesting to see, like, I mean, I guess Hitogami can't see Orsted anyways, but whenever Orsted uses that, I wonder if he knows. He probably does. He's a smart guy. Orsted's a smart little cookie, isn't he? So, with that, you have, you know, they get there right through the desert. Elenilise has her little magical artifact to prevent her curse. Right, cool. They get to the bazaar, right? Save the guys, meet back up with them. They're attacked by bandits. That's a cool little segment where we get a little more insight into Rudeus' character, where he's like, hey, you know, what you call it? I didn't even think to kill them, right? The bandits attack. Uses Quagmire to show him down, Mystic, get away, and then Walls to slow him down even more. And then he never even considered killing them. So that's another interesting thing. You know, just like, not that he's like against it. He just never even considered it a possibility. Even after this long living in this world, he still has those sensibilities where he's just like just killing someone just doesn't come to mind for him. Right? Where he's like, I just have to slow him down. And he's like, some of them probably died. Sure. He's like, but that's not my fault. He said just using magic to kill someone feels like murder, right? And so that was interesting. It was interesting to get his viewpoint on that, and how, you know, even though he didn't do anything wrong, you know, he did everything he needed to do, right? Fighting and killing them would just, you know, prolong things. They needed to get away. Then that's what they did. And so that was interesting. I mean, I like the little characters that they're around with. Elenilise she's a fun character. Obviously, she's, you know, funny, old Dragon's Tale. She's Rostalina. So I read that a while ago. I've been re-listening to it. There's a YouTube series on it. It's very good of a lady reading it. I've been listening to those recently because I just got back from a trip where I was on a bus for a while. So I was listening to that on the bus just because I got sick of music. But yeah, no. So old Dragon's Tale. And so, you know, Elenilise is Rostalina. So that's fun to look at and be like, oh, you know Laplace. You don't know that you know Laplace, but you know Laplace. So that's very fun. But yeah, so all in all, I mean, it was a good second half of the book. It was just a lot of journeying. You know, not as much to talk about, I think, as the deep dive into Rudeus' character in the first half. Obviously, have a lot to talk about next book, which I will get to eventually. I have a couple books before it. I have Berserk of Gluttony Volume 2, Loner Life in Another World Volume 1, and Classroom of the Elite Volume 7. I'll likely have videos on all of those. These are books I bought a while ago. These are books that I bought a while ago, and then it's straight Mushoku Tensei for a hot minute. For a hot minute, I think I'm just gonna focus on Mushoku Tensei after this, because we're getting up there in volumes, man. We're getting there, dude. We're getting there. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. I love What you call it? I love the web novel for Light Novel 12. I expect I'm gonna absolutely adore it. Reading it rewritten. I'm so looking forward to seeing how Sarah is implemented in 13 and later. It's just gonna be good, man. It's gonna be awesome. Mushoku Tensei Volume 11. It's a great book. I recommend reading it. Probably need to read the first 10 first. This is season 2 of the anime content. I believe the anime is going to cover through the end of Volume 12. I think that's where it's going to go to. Probably a bit into 13, because then you have, Roxy properly introducing herself as a wife and all that. Maybe a little bit into 13. We'll see. We'll just have to see, though. Who knows? I think I heard a rumor they were going to do 30-something episodes for Season 2 of Mushoku Tensei. It's like, well, if they do 30 episodes, we're getting to Turning Point 4, which is... we're getting to Turning Point 4, baby. Man, I don't know if I'm ready to reread Turning Point 4. That's gonna be something. That'll be phenomenal. But yeah, all in all, I love the book, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So, if you're this far in the video, obviously there's something you like, so make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling me how congested I sound and how disgusting my voice is. Next up, this Sunday, I believe, we're going to do the last 3 One Piece chapters that came out, because I've been busy and didn't get a chance to record them. And I'm actually recording this the day that I'm publishing it, because I blew through all my reserves on my trip, and then I was sick with allergies and all that. I got hit real hard. But yeah, and then the week after that, we got Chainsaw Man. Wednesday after this, we got Chainsaw Man. So that's good. That's going to be based. Yeah, if you guys like this one, I hope you guys are looking forward to the next one. And I'll see you then. Bye.